everyone, thanks for joining. And in today's video we're going to talk about CRUD operation. In this case, create, read, update, and delete. So we're going to do the users table and start doing CRUD operations in this case. So what we're going to do is that first npm run dev. Okay, this is the Caspian StarterKit series. So we're going to, I think this going to be the last, because afterward this is going to become the you're going to use your own ideas to build your own application the way you like, look and feel, no? So we're going to do CRUD operation. Afterward you can do anything you want. So I'm going to save dashboard. So I'm going to go to sign in and logged in. Go to users. I just have this. So what I'm going to do is to create a table in this case, because we're going to use Madex components as always in this case. So let's go way down and search for table. We have this. So what I'm going to do is just install this table. So I'm going to install the table. CLS paste. Okay, now table, it's been installed. Now I have this section which is the users, but what I want to do is that I want to use this example in this case. So what I'm going to do is just copy this. There we go. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to import the table because I already installed it. So table captions, table head, table row, table body. Okay, there we go. And now we have a table which have this information, as you can see, have the same look and feel. So what we're going to do is that we're going to put a header in this case. Let's say we're going to put a header h2 or h1, anyone, say users, and okay, there we go. Now we have users, and now we have the users information, so on. So what next we're going to do is that we're going to use the user database in this case. So as you can see, we have user here. So now we're going to start listing from the users. Okay, so first thing first, we already have, in previous video we worked on the user section. So what we're going to do is that we're going to log out the users. In this case we have only one user, so we're going to use pulse point in this case. Remember, pulse point, you can go to Google. It's very important to know the pulse point behaviors. So pulse point, docs, and loops in this case. So there we go. We have template, things like that. So this and that. So in this case, as you can see, we already have our user JSON and we have our reactive. In this case, we are using the JSON variable, which it's coming from the Python in this case. As you can see, users, and we get in this case the list turning into JSON. So there we go. This is remember Caspian it's using FastAPI engine just to templating. So let me see. Yes, let's convert this into this to don't have many warnings. There we go. So instead of invoice, we want to say list of recent users. Let's say this is we are not going to display the ID because that is large. So what I'm going to do is that we're going to display, in this case we need the username, email, and create it in this case. So name, email, create it. Okay, so now what we're going to do is that we're going to create a template, in this case pp for user in users. Good to go. And now this template is going to be run. There we go. And now single quotes, not double, single, I think there's a single mustache. Yes, anyway, here with his, okay, created ad is using, easy as this, we already have our user list. As you can see, the way we get is that we loop into the users in this case because we already passed this user. So now the next step is have options, button options, where we're going to click to the user. So we're going to have a header in this case. You can put let's say options, and then you have options here, and where you're going to put the button. No? So let's say the created ad, you want to format the date, no? The date. So you can have a function, in this case function, let's say format date, and then we can use this, in this case, easy as that, and there we go. We format the date. Now it's looking good. Okay, we need our options. So there we go. Table cell. We have edit. Yes. And what next? Let's say delete button. Well, I'm not going to use this button. I'm going to use the component button in this case. If you go to Madex, we have installed the button in this case. So I'm going to use this button. Even you can use the button group in this case. As you can see, look pretty. You have edit here, and then you have delete, so on. But I don't know. I'm curious about this. Okay, so let's try to import. As you can see, it's not installed, so I'm going to install this because group now, yes, button operator, okay, and Save. Yes, now we have saved changes and this icon button. So what we're going to do is that in the button group, what we're going to say in this case, we don't need any separator because it's a group, no? So this is going to be pencil in this case, pencil component, and there is no pencil. So if you're curious about where I'm getting the icons is named PP icons, where I'm getting, because this is the one which have all lucid icons in this case, but it's used for Caspian in this case. So what I'm going to search for is pencil, and then as you can see, you can copy, or the easiest way when you are using Caspian is just if you install, remember you need to go to the installation in this case in the docs if you haven't used it. So just npm install globally, npm install and only on your project. So there you go. No, the browse. So I'm going to install the pencil. So pp icons, because I already have installed globally. So pp icons, install pencil component. So now I have pencil available, and let's say the size 4, size 4 plus size 4. Oops. There you go. Okay, now let's save. Okay, and size icon, no, there is no trash, no. PP icon, there we go. Now we have a variable there. Oh, there we go. We have edit, and let's convert the trash to type, in this case variant destructive. And the good of Caspian component is that when you have a component and you press control space, you get all the options available. In this case, you just choose destructive, and if you go to the button component, you will see that the button variant have default, destructive, outline, so on. It's a Python file. So remember, you are creating your component in Python, and this is going to be available in HTML. But remember, you need to install, I recommend, because this is the way how Caspian is built, Caspian extension, because you are not going to get this completion destructive. So easy as that. Okay, so when we come, we already have pencil, and we have the destructive in this case. And remember, we are using ShatCN color schema. You can go direct to the global CSS, and you're going to see that this is ShatCN color schema, which make very easy to have these components having its variant based on Tailwind CSS and ShatCN. Okay, so now we have our button this way. Okay, button group, so on. Yes. Okay, nice. I think there is something missing in Madex, because let me search for .cn. I feel like there is something missing in button groups. Yes, there we go. I need this section. As you can see, there is no separation. So let me view the code, how they build the archive and report. So I think we need to put button group. It's outline. Curious, eh? You need to have a like see. Okay. Now. Okay, just button group. There we go. I already identified the issue in this case. The button group, not um, it's not being processed in this case. So we down. So we are just processing we are not using the button group in this case. Madex button group. Okay, we need to install, because I think we're going to find error here in this case. There we go. So because as you can see, the separator, it's not been installed, so it's waiting to install the separator. So okay, Madex separator. Just notice that it's not processing. Yes, there we go. Okay. Okay, there we go. We have our button group now. The issue was that the button group using separator, but in the documentation I haven't said that the button group should install the separator if not available in the library section. So that is next topic to touch. Anyway, okay, we have our button group. So when I press, I want to get the user information when I click there. So I'm going to create a function. I'm going to call function edit user, and then what we're going to do is that we're going to log out the user information. So what we're going to do is user cancel log the user information. So I'm going to get the user information from button and click user. Okay, so we have the user information, in this case created at email, ID, image, so on. So now, as you can see, this is the easiest way. You just loop the user and you pass as arguments in the user, and then the user, you get the user information. All right, so now what I want is that when I click here, or I'm going to create a button here, which is going to say that we want to create a new user. So the new user, it's going to be a dialog, and the edit user, it's going to open that dialog, but it's going to place the current user information instead of the new user information. So for this, we need to have a dialog. I think we already have installed the dialog information. So what we're going to do is that let's create a component which it's going to have the user CRUD information. So in this, you can create anywhere your component, but I have components. So inside dashboard, let's say inside dashboard, I have users in this case. So inside users, I'm going to put the create update dialog.python. In this case, this Python file is going to be responsible to creating user and updating user. That is going to be doing. So I'm going to say Caspian component, and what I'm going to do is that I'm going to create the HTML. So create update dialog. Remember when you were creating your Caspian component file for Python to link to the HTML, you need to name it, or if you not name it, but remember, if when you're going to render, in this case, render HTML, so you can have, like, say, here goes the create the dialog, which is going to be the same. There are not going to be no changes in this case. I'm just going to put I'm going to import button in this case. Button, I'm going to put an icon, plus icon. There is no plus icon, no problem. I'm going to install qt icons, add plus icon. Okay, plus icon, we have plus icon, we have class, there is no size for, there we go. So we want to import a button in this case, so we have this component which is going to be in charge. So there we go, we have our component create update dialog. We're going to place after this, we're going to say that if, and here the component going to create update dialog. There we go. Okay. Here, let me see. It looks like we break something else over here. Dev. Okay. Okay, there we go. Okay, now let's try to. This is still in printing the user information. I think this coming from profile. Yes, there we go. Let's report this. Okay. Okay, there we go. HTML. See? Okay, as you can see, I have my add new button over here. This is a dialog. This is going to become a dialog, but we just have this button. So what we're going to do is that now what I want to show that, as you can see, when you have the HTML, you can't pass the name and the extension, and Caspian going to render it for you. But my favorite way is that I just set a down the file, and that's all what I do. And in this case, it's going to be the same. As you can see, it's reload, but it's going to be the same. Nothing going to change because the idea is the same. Anyway, okay. Now what I want is to convert this into a dialog. So when I click to this, it's going to open the dialog and it's going to close the dialog. So the easiest way that you can have two ways of doing this, because remember, let's say here you can have your own button open, close, and then you can have this dialog down here having a single anyway. You can do however you like. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to have this button, in this case, this button over here, paste, and then remove, save, and now I'm going to have the create the dialog down here. So I have my add new, and it's going to trigger the same idea. Okay, now let's go to Madex, search for dialog. Okay, dialog. We're going to use this. So copy, and now create the dialog, paste. So start importing the component. Dependency. And now when you go to the site, you're going to see that the open in this case. So when I click, it's open the dialog, close, open dialog. But we need to convert the dialog in this case to control dialog, because we want to open when we want to do create new and edit. So the easiest way is that you're going to come to your component. In this case, instead of having props, you're going to explicitly ask to pass you the props you need, which is open and the set open. So let's say open, in this case, lowercase open, open. So it's going to be a string, and I'm not going to set to any value because it's going to it's required. So if you do, like say, if you set, in this case, let's say string or none, this is going to mean that you are setting that the props is going to be optional. But I don't want that when you going to work with this component, you need to pass the props open and set open variable. So in this case, set open dialog. Oops. So I'm going to set here dialog instead of, so I'm not going to allow any, yes, that's all what I need. And then I'm going to say open dialog and off. Yes, go on. Set open. That's all what I need to pass. So now what I'm going to do is that I'm going to receive these props in my HTML. where I'm going to receive, in this case, in this dialog. And in React they call it a composition component. So what we are doing is that we are just creating a composition component which internally manage the dialog. So dialog got props which is open, but I'm going to pass the open dialog, right? Dialog which it's coming from this. So say dialog, oops, open change, it's going to be this. So this way, in this case, let's see if we don't break anything here. Yeah, look like we break something. Yes. Now we need to pass missing requirement properties, in this case open dialog and set open. Okay, so what I'm going to do is that I'm going to set, let me remove this because we already know we getting the information. So let's say open dialog and say open dialog. So now we're going to pass open dialog inside mustache open dialog and this set open dialog, which is going to be same set open dialog, not in function but it's variable name. Okay, now yes, now we have information, but we having console log set evaluation set open dialog is not defined. Okay, I know we are following React, so what I'm going to do is that let's fix this. I'm going to create a div, a parent, which is going to have this information. So then we're going to pass in mustache. Yes, let's see. Okay, let's see what's up. Ah, yes. Anyway, this was not so required. So anyway, because the dialog is position, the issue is here that we need string. Yes, let's see if that fix issue. No. Okay. Yes, we are passing correctly. Okay, let me see what it's going on here in this case. Okay. Let me put something specific here because I can't debug that way. So I'm going to say open dialog com. Okay, now yeah, let's debug what we are receiving and what we are receiving which. Okay. Okay. Quite strange. Okay. There you go. Okay. So we are receiving open, rendering, open dialog. I think we are doing anything wrong here. No, I think something is not working as expected. So set open dialog. Oof. Hold on. Okay, let's see what is going on. I think it's not working as expected. I'm not getting the information how I want. Anyway, okay, okay, now we open here, and then what we're going to do is that I think something is going on when I pass into the props. I think it should be something happening in the TX Madex course. Okay, let me see if okay, anyway, let's do it this way because this is working, so I'm not going to afterward I'm going to search how to fix this. So I want to open, in this case, when I press here button, so and click, set open dialog, true, open dialog, and then when I click here I want to open the dialog too. So edit user, I'm going to set a current user, cons current user, or selected user, object. We can pass null or empty object, anyone. Currently is null, so and then open the dialog. So when I click open the dialog, add new, open dialog, so we're going to remove the open dialog in this case. Now, okay, easy as that. So now what I'm going to do is that we're going to add for delete, we're going to use this alert dialog. So if we confirm that we're going to delete in this case, we're going to press continue and it's going to delete. Okay, so for this I need to install I think this is going to be, let's say, an issue because I want the logic to the next side. I don't want mixing logic, but what is happening? Okay, we're going to see after what is happening. But for now, we want to put this alert dialog just to find out what is going on. Start importing the dialog. Okay. Open, cancel, cancel. Okay, so when I press, in this case, to delete, I want to open the alert dialog. So in this case, I'm going to set fonts open alert dialog function delete user, and then the open is going to be a open dialog, and open change is going to be set open alert dialog. Okay, let's see. What is happening? Ah, yeah. My bad. Copy, paste. Yes, my bad. Let's see. Let's see. Okay. Open another dialog. Okay. And open change. Okay. Okay, my bad. Unclick. So we're going to pass the user itself. We can pass the ID, user.id in this case, if we want, but I'm going to pass the user. Easier than that. There we go. We have the user in this case, and when I click, the alert dialog opens. So if I press continue, I want to delete the user. Easy as that. But the issue is that we can't delete the current user because that is the only one we have. So we need to create the user first. So what I'm going to do is that in the dialog, in this case, instead of having this section, what we're going to do is that we're going to create dialog. So we're going to set a specific, let's say is edit mode. So when we press, in this case here is edit mode, we're going to set to true to identify that we are editing the dialog. So here we edit mode, create, and then in this case, in the content, we're going to create a form. Let's create a form. So the form is going to have a label and input. We can go to the input in this case and copy and paste. There is no problem because this is the same idea. in this case. So copy this. Yes, I think my editor, it's not helping anywhere. There we go. Groups, kids, level, input. So what we're going to do is that we're going to create user just with this input, in this case ID. So placeholder, you put anything you want, username, and this. Okay, so for now we're going to get that the error that we are okay. Let's do this. Username, we're going to create a variable, a specific variable for that username. So select the user, set this edit mode, set username, that. Okay, there we go. When you open, we have Daniel Gonzalez, as you can see now. Edit Daniel Gonzalez. When we go to new, we need to reset in this case. So function new user. So instead of edit mode, set username, new. Okay, there we go. As you can see, the options where I'm clicking in this case, there is no server request. Sometimes some frameworks maintains the state in the server, but Caspian maintain using pulse point. But I think there is an issue when you are doing a composition component. I need to review that. Why? Because I don't like that. So anyway, in this case, when I click, it's local only. It like say client only, and there is no server request until now. Let's say I'm going to come in this case in users. Let's users. Yes, there we go. So I'm going to create a new user. So RPC, we need to import RPC and require out true because we need to register only authenticated user. So we're going to create the user. Let's see, user ID, string or none. Name, it's going to be required in this case. So if there is no name, well, for now we're going to say update. We're going to return just the user, create user. Okay, let's test. First, as you can see, the thing is that I'm using Prisma. I'm going to create a new user, and then we're going to return the new user information. And we don't want to reload the page to get the user, in this case, user information, when we create the user. So in this case, let's create a function in this to call create user. And what we're going to do is that first we're going to get the user information, in this case the username. So when we press that, we're going to create the user. In this case, when we are creating the form, let's say we just press enter, or we have a form here. In this case, maybe form. Okay, here's the profile. Okay, and we get a footer. There you go. Okay, so let's set the loading in this place. Phones loading. Okay, so when we click to the form, we want to update or create the user. So first, what we're going to do is that phones, we're going to get the event from event. Let's get just form data name, submit, create user. We send the event in this case, and we prevent, set loading. Okay, so what we're going to do is that we're going to create new user. Let's refill the user and then save changes, Robin this. Okay, so now I'm going to send the information to index, in this case, to create or update user. I'm going to send the name. So for that, we're going to create a response. I'm going to get the response, await the information, PPR. Okay, this. So if success, there we go. Okay, it's looking good. So the thing is that when we create the user, we're going to append the user in set users, and this way we are not going to reload the page to get the user information. So let's say I'm going to create a new user, save changes, there function not found. Okay, let's see. Yes, create user, it's not the function name, it's create or update user. But create update you, I think create update user should, let's do it that way. Create update user, paste the correct function information, and now let's give a try. Save changes, fail. Okay, async, and then await information, success to new user. There we go. Okay, changes, there we go. As we can see, we have a single request in this case. Let's create another user. Let's clear this, refresh, and now as you can see in the network tab, there is no logs, but when I send to save this, we have single request, we get the user information back, and we're going to use this same information and to set in this list. But as you can see, it's returning the user password, which is not correct. So we're going to prevent to pass the user information. So the good part of Prisma ORM is that there is a omit in this case. So omit, we're going to omit the password. We don't want the password. So let's give a try now. We don't want the password information to be filtered because we that for security always focus on security. Save, user being created, and now as you can see in omit we omit the password, so we are not getting the password information in the response. Easy as that. The good part of the Prisma ORM is that you not going to select all, but you can omit a specific column because we don't want to filter the user password created. So we need to somehow we need to create the user password in this case. So let me see. Okay. Okay, so what we're going to do next is that we're going to update the user information there. This let's fix that. So when we press the create user, in this case we're going to pass the ID if exists. So how we get the ID? We're going to get it from, let's build a payload, cons let's say payload, so the ID going to be available if the role name. So let's pass this payload in this case. Okay, there we go. Yeah, helping, because I see that this section is correct. Looks like it's correct because you are looping through the user and getting the ID. You get the user and the ID response, and then you're going to happen. No, you're going to replace that using that the current to the current user. So we're going to change this username. We're going to say edited. Let's save changes. Okay, we have error, internal server error. Let's see what's up. Okay, there we go. Line RPC handle request function call. Okay, keyword argument ID. Okay. It's user ID. So let's change it to ID, just ID, because we are sending. Okay, one thing to note is that remember, when you are sending the RPC, you need to send this ID as a params, in this case part of the object, and that same name you need to capture in your RPC function. As you can see, the same name ID name, so on. Okay, so let's see now. Let's give a shot. Edit it. Changes, And there we go. So we have a single request, but we get the updated user in this case. I come and refresh, and we're going to see that the user maintains, because we are already saving in the database. So what I'm going to do is that let's edit another one in this case. Do so on, some name, and there we go. In this case, we already having success through. Okay. So now what we're going to do is that we're going to delete the user. We're going to create a function, in this case RPC function. RPC, yes, require out, delete user. There we go. Success true. But we can't return the deleted user too. In this case, we're going to capture the deleted user. So deleted user, and then we can send the deleted user. In this case, maybe in some case you need to delete the user. So you need the deleted user. So async, you want to put the function okay, there we go. Set loading, RPC, delete user. We send the selected user ID if it's successful. So we're going to use the selected user ID. Even we can't use the response user in this case. We can use for user ID, because remember we are sending back this information. It's object in this case. The response is going to return an object, so we can capture that. Easy as that. We have this information, and now, oops, users, and now we're going to delete any one. Let's see the last one. Continue. What we're going to do is that we can't put this to danger 2 in this case. So let's say continue. Let's put loading in this case. In the continue, loading. Okay. So loading. And there we go. Okay. Delete the user have been deleted. So there we go. We have the deleted user information, and send the payload ID response, and we have our CRUD. So as you can see, in terms of performance and what you want to do with the server request, it's very specific. So when you want to create, you create your user until your validation you can handle in the front end, and remember to validate in the back end too, because it's very important. Maybe we want to start validating in other video, because I think I need to move this into a composition component, which was the idea, but I see there is an issue. I need to find out what is happening. We're going to validate, we're going to create in a composition component. I don't know what was the was doing wrong, but anyway, the idea is that you save, you have the information, you made a single request, which is very good and performant way to get information. And then what you want to do is that you, for edit, you just request single and update it direct, and then for delete, single request, same idea. As you can see, we already have our CRUD operation completed in this case, but how I mentioned before, I think this is not quite good practice, because the idea is that we're going to move this dialog component into a composition component like React does, because that was the idea, but something's gone anywhere. Okay, and this it's going to be responsible for deleting deleting the information, and it's going to be a composition component too. And all the logic in this case, it's going to be moved away from the index HTML, because in index HTML, what we're going to do is that we're going to list the users, but we're not going to use logic information for creating, deleting, because that's going to have a mix of things. So I think I'm going to improve this information in previous video, and we need to validate, because remember, we don't ever trust user inputs. Validate front end if required, but backend should always validate inputs in this case. So we're going to validate, because validation, it's very easy in this case when you are using Caspian component, because remember, when you are sending this ID, you're going to validate that the ID in this case, let's say validated ID. So validate, as you can see, we have this validate that, and then you're going to search for CUID, and there we go. And so what we're going to validate is that the validated ID, and now we're going to use that validated ID. It's very important you validate. Same goes for the name in this case. So what we're going to do is that validated name, and it's string in this case, string, there we go. Yes, we need to validate if, there we go. So this is very important. This step you should ever miss, because it's required in this case in your backend logic. Okay, so to sum up, what we have built is our CRUD operation, easy and smoothly, but there is a two issue to finish, because we need to create a composition component, and we need to create the email and the password. So that's going to be in the next video, but what we gain doing in this video, what we get is that we can create our user, easy as that, and then we can edit the user, save, and delete the user, easy as that, deleting in this case. Let's see, invalid user ID, what's going on? Okay, let's see, it's yelling, oh, okay, let's see. Hold on again. Okay, your terminal, Do we get in the ID? Okay, let's see now. Yes, we're getting the ID. There we go. Okay, we're getting the ID. We are validating in this case with user ID. Something is missing anyway. But okay, the idea we get the CRUD logic in this case. So that was the intention, and we get through. But in this case, the architecture, I'm not convinced with this solution. Having everything in one single file, that is not good practice even for me. So we're going to change the idea in the next video, but because we're going to move parts to pieces in this case. So if there are any question, well, you can ask, no problem, and see if I could answer. Anyone? Okay, so, well, thank you all to join in this case. So we see you in the next video, and happy coding.